as Facebook Live kicks off. Hello, Sean here from Oliver Grove Center for Community Wellness, aka The Grove, live from The Grove, as we like to say. This is like the third week we started doing this, where we're just kind of casually, informally checking in. We've been doing our weekly Ascension broadcast starting April 1st, and then after that, every Monday night, and doing moon ceremonies. We had a pretty powerful one yesterday. Holy cow, it was just yesterday. Very powerful full moon, super moon in Scorpio, fourth in a row, fourth consecutive super moons. There won't be another until April 2021. So in a way, that's like, whew, take a breather, astrologically speaking. We have so much going on right now in the world and being brought to the surface within our being, our soul. It can be overwhelming at times, but yeah, the last few days have been really intense, really expansive at the same time. You know, meeting those challenges, those stimuli, as I like to call it, versus triggers, with compassion and forgiveness where needed, and gratitude as often as we can remember. Cool. Thanks for fixing the screen. So yeah, we're doing the dual thing here with Facebook Live through the phone, and then we have a laptop. So just letting you know what we're kind of looking at right now. A laptop with our YouTube channel, which we've been working through Patreon. We'll talk a little bit about some of those details toward the end of this, but just kind of wanted to say hello. How are you? I love you. Thank you for sharing this space with us, and yeah, connecting. I was watching a season finale of a TV series. I don't watch a lot of TV these days, but I've watched the last 2 seasons. I think it's CBS. Yeah. I watch it with my mother. It's a way that we connect. It's a show that we watch together. And it's called God Friended Me. And it's actually a really cool premise. It kind of surprises me. It's on mainstream TV, but it doesn't in another sense. Like, these are ways that really inspiring stuff is kind of starting to get through that mainstream, or what some have called the lamestream media. So, you know, it's great to see this kind of stuff. And basically the show is about a young, youngerish 20-somethings in New York City. They're all professional, maybe a few years out of college. And the one main character, Miles, who's an atheist, oddly enough, gets connected to this God account through Facebook. And this God account sends him friend requests. And when he gets a friend request, that means he's supposed to help that person. One of his posse is this Indian guy, Rakesh, and he's super programmer, coder, hacker. I know that's kind of a negative word, but like really computer savvy. So his role is to dig up everything he can once he gets the friend request. Simultaneously, he's also trying to find out who's behind the God account, right? And so, like I said, Miles being an atheist, Rakesh, this computer programmer guy. There's other supporting characters. Miles' father's a Presbyterian or Episcopalian, I think, pastor, reverend in New York City, and then he gets promoted to bishop. But long story short, he's got a theistic father, if you will, and he's an atheist. Part of it had to do with something, losing his mother as a child. So that's a little bit of the storyline for you. But doesn't believe in God, but here he is working through this God account. And just the way synchronicities line up, it's uncanny. Like, they're talking about predictive analytics. Somebody's got to be really sophisticated that's running this kind of program to line up these things at perfect times. Like, holy cow, how is that person on the subway at that moment for a key event to share something that people needed to hear? Like, just really neat stuff. So synchronicity, if you know anything about that, I first heard that term when I read Celestine Prophecy years ago. And that's just how things line up based on what we're thinking about, what we're feeling, which then creates a vibrational state and literally draws things to us, and we're drawn to things, right? Real simple law of attraction. So in the show, don't want to spoil anything for you. If you want to watch it, I definitely recommend it. It's a worthy one. But in the season finale last night, so he's got this podcast. He's called The Millennial Prophet, and it starts to take off. He talks about his experiences with the God account, and so he's getting a following. Right? People are listening, like, wow, these are some compelling stories. People with cancer, people trying to find their mother, or their long lost father, or all these issues. So he helps patch these things up in people's lives. It's really a beautiful storyline. So his podcast is taking off, and his sister ends up with breast cancer. So that was a culminating part of the episode last night. And right before she went into surgery, she asked him, "Can you?" I forgot Mom's Bible. They lost their mother. That was part of why Miles became an atheist. They lost their mother to a car accident after she survived cancer. So that maybe fills in what happened for Miles as a young boy. Again, this is fiction, but you can kind of see how it's like, how could God allow somebody to survive cancer, and then within a few months they're killed in a car wreck, right? So you can kind of see how that line of thought would come about. So he's been living that way, through adolescence into young adulthood, not believing that. His sister did not have that response to it, stayed very true to the faith, and continued to go to church when her father would preach and so forth. And they all have these really nice, deep relationships with each other, great brother-sister connection. They're, great with their dad. Even when stuff comes up, they can have these open, honest conversations. It's really some powerful stuff when you watch how it's played out. Very uplifting material. But she asked for the Bible, Mom's Bible, and he's, it's New York City. You don't just run around the corner. I'll be back in 10 minutes. It's like, okay, I got to get on the subway. I got to get to the other end of town, whatever, deal with stops and all different things. Well, on the way to get the Bible, his friend requested his sister. So he's like, what the F, right? Like, that means I got to help her. But obviously she's already in a jam. She's got cancer. She's going in for surgery. He can't figure out, how could I help her? Well, it must be getting the Bible. Subway gets jammed up. There's a gas leak and it freezes up on the tracks. While that happens, the doctor goes into his sister's room and says, we had a cancellation, your surgery's moved up. So she's going in while he's on the subway, right? He doesn't know this, of course, but he's like, wow, we got to get off the subway. And he's, again, thinking she needs the Bible before she goes in for surgery, or like he let her down. So there's a gas leak. He hears over the PA system or whatever, the operator of the subway is injured. And he's rounding people up and saying, look, folks, we got to get off this train. There's a gas leak. We got to go. And people are like, I'm not going out on those tracks, So it's a little bit like maybe Moses' Red Sea moment. Like, I'm not walking through that. That water's not going to stay parted, right? And somebody comes out running through that he had helped in a previous episode and says, again, long story short, basically says, this man asked me to trust him, and I did. And he saved my life and my daughter's life. All of a sudden people were like, okay, let's go. And off the train, off the subway they go, and he gets back to the apartment, can't find the Bible and whatever. It's this twisted thing. So by the time he does find the Bible and come back to the hospital, he's like, whoa, where is she? She went in for surgery. So he's like, oh man, this isn't good. I didn't get her the Bible before she goes into the surgery. So kind of thinks, well, that's it. Right. And there's a common thread with him. He's starting to get it, like God is showing him stuff for him, how God's working through his life. Right. Even one of his mentor atheists in one of the episodes suggested that maybe there's only one difference between God and the God account. One word, account. So really powerful stuff, whatever you believe religiously. That there's a greater power that we're all connected to that's orchestrating everything. And whether it works through a Facebook channel or it works through, this intelligence works through everything. That's been most commonly referred to as God. So there was a Bible passage that when he opened the Bible verse, that his sister had written him a letter. And it was basically saying how much she loves him. And if she doesn't make it out of surgery, here's what she wants him to know. And it's like, wow. It was like one of those moments where the tears are welling up, right? But the Bible verse it was God liking the Bible verse on Facebook that got him to the page where her letter was. So I'll read Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. So he's on a mountaintop at the very end of the episode, and that verse compelled him to go in search of something. And the season thing concludes with like this little Tibetan Buddhist kid saying, "Oh, we've been waiting for you," or "She's been waiting for you," is what he says. And then the episode ends. So he's on this presumably, I don't know, Himalayan mountain top. And then this little Tibetan monk comes up and is like, "She's been waiting for you." So who knows, with season 3, I'm kind of looking forward to it. But that Bible verse is really powerful when you think about it. You know, that this intelligence has prosperous plans for us. However, we can't tune into that prosperity, into that well-being, if we're listening to other narratives that really, when you boil it down, stir up fear. And so you hear these different things that lower your vibration, or we got to be aware, you can't spiritual bypass. I get all of that. However, just from a quality of life standpoint, if you just really are honest with yourself in a moment, am I in a state of love or fear? It's really that simple. We tend to overcomplicate it. And fear can be called a lot of different things: shame, anger, grief, pride, guilt. You know, a lot of these not feel good emotions that need to be felt and acknowledged, so that hence the spiritual bypassing, allow them to release and move through, and then say, you know, then to intervene with this process and say, just help me get back to a state of love, to a state of grace, of harmony, of absolute trust in life, that life is unfolding perfectly the way it needs to, in synchronicity, for my path, for my soul's experience, its purpose, mission that it came into this realm to experience and to offer, and to be of service, and live from there, rather than living from a place of security. And then we start looking outside ourselves, and we look to, oh my gosh, I got to have somebody in my life, and I have to have this particular living situation and this particular financial figure to feel safe. And we start limiting ourselves, rather than just say, hey, let all that support me. I have a roof over my head. I have the right people in my life. I have the resources available to me. What is the divine? What is God? What is Goddess saying to me right now? Like, it might be just sit there and chill, sit and relax, breathe. It might be pick up the phone and do this, or go to this place. Or the more we can tune into that, it could be like, I don't get it. Why are you there? And then you listen to that, and then you find out, oh, that's why, right? If we really start to look in our lives, a lot of things can make sense why they went the way they did. And we can see where the fear was leading us to a dead end. There's no end with inspiration. Fear is always like this kind of dead end point. And you're just like, oh, it turned out that way again, right? With inspiration, it's just, wow, that was pretty fucking cool. Okay, now what? Okay. Oh, wow, I followed that inspiration. That was pretty amazing, challenging and amazing, rather than just, oh gosh, here I am in that same loop, that hamster wheel. So we have a tremendous opportunity right now. Some of us, depending what's going on for you, work-wise, children-wise and things, but when you can carve out some space for yourself to do your self-care practices, whatever that is, if you're doing breathing things, meditation, yoga, being in nature, for me, is one of the keys. Just taking good care of yourself as if you were just a little child. It's just such a big deal. And as we do that and fill our cup and charge our battery, show up to life in an inspired way, we can be the answer to an inspiration for another. And that intelligence is governing and is coordinating all of that constantly, to be that inspiration for someone else, right? And then someone's an inspiration for you. And what a beautiful way to live life. To be like, wow, that was so inspiring. And it can be any moment, any day. So I'll rest my lips for a minute or two or three or whatever, and let Paige here share some things that she would like to share with you all. And by all means, if whoever's listening here, comment, feel free to ask a question. But outside of that, yeah, we're just kind of checking in to say hello and we love you.
So the thing that I really wanted to share this week was just a little bit of how sometimes we can think that the people who are providing help and services, the people who are supporting us, like that they've got it all figured out, and that like we have to try to catch up with them, or like they've got something that we don't have. Just a humble reminder for me this week about how I'm still very much in the process, and this is something that I know, but it really hit me. We were doing our Ascension broadcast for Monday's broadcast, and Sean started playing sound bowls, and what I was working on all day came up for me, and I just started tearing up. And then I led the meditation, and in the meditation I started tearing up, and it was I had a whole experience that lasted most of the night, but really helped me process through what I was going through. And then when we did our moon ceremony on Thursday, I was able to see how the work that we did for the new moon was really coming to a point for this full moon. And it really just gave me this deeper appreciation for what it is that we're all going through. Like, we're not just sharing this with you from a place of knowing more. We're sharing this with you all from a place of we need it just as much as you do. And we all are in very similar spots, even though we have different perspectives, different tools, different things to share. And we're grateful to share the tools that we have with you. And they are very, very powerful as we've applied them and experienced them in our lives, but we're still actively applying them and experiencing them in our lives. It's not just like, oh, we figured it out, now we just teach everybody else. No, we're still healing and working and going through stuff all the time, every day, every moment. Yes, of course.
We're all in different boats and on the same ocean.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So that was just really something that I wanted to share, was just the profound impact that even your own work that you're doing can have on yourself. Like, a lot of times we start feeling like, I was talking to a friend and she's like, oh, I'm working on myself. I'm working on myself. I'm like, okay, but are you loving yourself? Are you allowing this work to do what it needs to do? Or are you feeling like it's work, and is it a chore? So that was another thing that came up this week, was just loving myself through what I was going through. So if any of you are having trouble with where you are, just wanted to give you that little inspiration that you're going through whatever it is that you need to go through, and allow yourself to process, allow yourself to be surprised by how much something can support you. I was surprised by how much the broadcast supported me the other day. I shouldn't have been, because I know how powerful it is. And I know just through my own experience how amazing what it is that we bring to the broadcast, but just what it is that life brings to us through inspiration. It's really like, I'm inspired to do a meditation like Sean was talking about. Like, I don't plan my meditations beforehand. I just get an inspiration of what it is that we're supposed to do and work on, and then it just comes through. And life is a lot better for me, especially with all my anxiety that I've worked through over years and years and years. Life's a lot better when I just let myself be inspired, when I know what it is that I want to feel, and I just allow myself to be drawn more and more towards that feeling, and be willing to let go of the stuff that I'm addicted to that feels bad. And, being willing to look at that fear vibration and be like, I'm creating that. I'm addicted to that. I'm going through the same motions, and to choose inspiration instead, to allow all of this that's around us, like the synchronicities he was talking about, like everything in your life can be speaking to you at another moment. So that was another thing I wanted to bring up. My friend Allison and I, love you, Allison, we went for a walk the other day, and she's like, I keep asking the universe for signs, and they're not showing me signs. And as we were walking, we were talking about how to let go of control, how to allow inspiration to come to us. And, she was like, no, I don't want to do that. It's very, very uncomfortable. And I don't think she would be afraid or upset with me sharing this. But at that moment, we saw a rabbit on the side of the path. And we watched the rabbit for a few moments. He was super cute. He did a little leg thing with his little paws. And then he leaped away. And I told her, that was a sign. That was the universe coming to you to say, it's okay to take a leap. That's what that message was in that moment. And these messages are there for us to interpret all of the time. If there is something that you are asking for, the universe is giving you messages, but are you allowing yourself to be inspired by them? Are you allowing yourself to look deeper into a situation and not just think, oh, that's a rabbit. Rabbits are outside this time of year. Cool. But really see that as an answer or a confirmation of whatever it is that we were talking about moments before, whatever it is that our intentions are for the day or for our lives. These messages are coming through, these inspirations are coming through, and getting in the practice of listening to them, of following through on them, and knowing that inspiration will always feel good to you. Inspiration will always feel clear. It'll always feel supportive. So
there's an excitement to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's usually a resistance too, and we can talk ourselves out of it.
Yeah, we can certainly talk ourselves out of it. That's what I was saying. So you'll know it's an inspiration if it feels good when it first comes to you. Anything that comes after is just the ego trying to rein you back in. No. That's going to make us feel better, and I want to feel afraid. I want to be stuck here. The ego really likes to be in control of our actions and our thoughts, and we're kind of moving out of that. So anyone have any questions? Anything any of you guys want to talk about? Anything you're struggling with? Anything that you're like really super excited about that you did that you want to share? That's really all I wanted to bring up today is just, remember that everyone is on their own journey, no matter how well or good it looks like they're doing. And no matter what you think you're capable of so much more. Allow yourself to be surprised by your own ability to heal, and allow yourself to be inspired with how you move forward in your life, and know that messages are coming to you all the time, and be on the lookout for them.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. The way that life is communicating with life, right? We're life. That rabbit was life. The computer screen, really everything's animated, quantum physics. It's beyond biology. You can say, oh, that computer doesn't have a heartbeat or blood running through its circuitry, but it has consciousness that's influenced by ours. And it's life influencing life, and there's a constant communication, and that can be through the animals. Nature is one of the ways I love to receive messages. It can be literally like a Bible quote. I'm not a Bible reader. I was raised in a Christian faith, but there's some uplifting stuff in the Bible, or just a street sign, things like that. We're at the corner here of Center in Oliver, right? And it's Oliver Grove Center for Community Wellness. So, those kind of things are they're letting us know we're on the right path. So numbers speak to us. It's something that I look at more than ever. Like, what does a number add up to, and does it correlate maybe to a chakra that I'm working through something? So I'm continually open to that communication, to how messages are getting to me. It's really through me, but it's also through this external holographic projection we're all living in that's reflecting back to us like, oh, this is the answer to that question you had an hour ago, maybe a year ago, right? You never know. And all of a sudden, boom, epiphany. So there's some pretty magical stuff that can happen when we feel safe and loved. And when we don't, it's very difficult to get into the magic and curiosity and wonder of life like a child did. And then over a lifetime, we get beat up by some things, and that becomes a program and a loop, and it just can really shut us down. So we're in a time where that's kind of closing in on us. And some of us have been doing this inner work for a period of time, and it's not that we're, I think Paige alluded to this, ahead of anyone. It's not a race. It's not a competition in any way. But this is somewhat familiar territory for people like Paige and I and others that we know who have been doing shadow work, have been sitting with things, have been getting to know ourselves and making time for that. So this may be very new to some people to really check in with yourself and say, where am I at? What's going on with me? Is my life, is this the life that feels inspired to me? And if it's not, forgive yourself. You don't have to make any rash decisions, but start with forgiveness. I forgive myself for creating this difficulty. And not only for myself, but for others around me that are impacted by my toxic projections, because I have unhealed shit. And I didn't even know I had unhealed shit. So now what do I do with it? Well, there's a ton of healing resources available to us these days. Yes, it could be in the form of a class that you pay for and so forth. We love reaching out and just sharing ourselves, sharing our time in a moment. But I can tell you, when we've been doing these weekly Ascension broadcasts with the sound bowls, and then Paige has an inspired meditation, I love that she's not overly prepared for it, more or less just kind of letting it come, and maybe some of it even comes to her while I'm on the bowls as we start this thing. And I feel it. I'm getting dialed in. I'm getting uplifted. So it already pays in that sense. So we really want to get this to more people who could benefit from it and not charge for it. However, to have a donation basis, like a whole bunch of other cool YouTube people that are sharing inspiring stuff right now and have subscribers and followers and all that. And it's because they're putting something out there valuable. They're sharing a gift, and that's something that is inspiring to me, to share a gift and to be supported in my support of others through their journey. So we're kind of opening this up. We've been trying to figure out a little bit how to do this virtual model. And so the Patreon thing with a subscriber base, thank you for the people that have subscribed, and we appreciate the financial support that goes with that. But it's more so to know that, hey, there's a few people tuned in here and getting something from what we're sharing. So we're going to be opening that up and still figuring out the Patreon end of it, but just kind of saying, hey, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You can watch it if you can't pay a penny, and if you're inspired and you got some cash, here's a couple of ways that you can get that to us. And just kind of have some fun with it and reach more people rather than narrow ourselves down too much to, it's got to be through this platform and you got to subscribe and it's this price point. No, so we're learning and growing through this process too, but we love what we share, even doing this, even just kind of opening up and just kind of checking in and sharing some insights, and connecting with you, from a distance remotely as we figure this out. Keep your mask handy. Oh, I'll give you a tip of the week. Essential oil for your mask. Game changer. I mean, I was getting tired of breathing my recycled breath and carbon dioxide. So
which one did you choose?
There was actually a little bit left in a bottle of a mix called Breathe, oddly enough.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
So I dabbed some of that on this morning, and the few times I was in the store today, out and about, I'm like, that's different. But still happy as soon as I get out of the store to do this, because I'm like, I can breathe again, right? I mean, really, think about that. It's no way to breathe having this up around there. So just little things we can do as we navigate this terrain. Some people are really scared right now about this pandemic and a disease and so forth. And if that includes you, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm personally not afraid of that. I got other fears that I'm dealing with. Financial comes up, survival fears, some pretty deep-seated stuff, which ties into disease and that kind of thing too. But just my knowing is that that's not one of my challenges or lessons. But I've dealt with health stuff, so I got a bit of a insight into that too. I spent a whole year Googling symptoms, and I couldn't imagine having health anxiety right now through this. Oh my God, is it COVID? Is that a symptom? Is that a symptom? That was me a few years ago when I started having a lot of stress-related illness pop up, and I didn't understand at that time how much the mind affects the body. Now I'm on it. It still gets the better of me at times, but at least I know more of what's going on, and I can generally get back into my body, calm myself, talk to that inner child, and at least not be overwhelmed by what's surfacing, right? And putting myself in a good spot, whether that is sitting by the water under a tree, or doing this thing. This feels great to share this and check in with you, or the people that you can connect with in person, that you feel safe doing that with. Please do that. Please hug them if you feel safe that way too. We need to be connected through this. Whatever boundaries and comfort zones there are, always respect it. I met a client yesterday for a landscape gig, and we kind of said hi, and it was somebody I'd known through Facebook, never met in person. And there was that awkward moment, and she said something, and I said, I'll hug you if you're okay with the hug, and she's like, okay, right? So I didn't offer it, but she was kind of hinting at it. And so that's how I like to navigate this, to say, hey, I'm not afraid of anybody. Someone says, I don't even want to shake your hand. That's okay. No problem. You want the mask on, that makes you feel safe, go for it. So we're kind of finding a way to just be ourselves through this, honor our space and honor other people's space, and just navigate through life instead of pushing against everything. That's wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. I should be here. No, let's just start right from here. Ground zero. Boom. Like pretend you just landed here from another planet. Here's what you got. No script. Boom. Right. Okay. I feel the love. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little scared, but I feel the love. Right. So to be able to have some humor through it too is super, super important, I find as well. It was actually a friend shared this today. Laughter is the best medicine and sex is the best exercise. So do what you can to get one or both in your life, and in a good way that fits your soul path. But yeah, it's nice to check in on Fridays, and we look forward to keep figuring out some content that we can share and deliver, and really help and support people through this, not just through this pandemic, but for whatever's to come in months and years ahead. So thank you for tuning in. Love y'all.
Thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate you. I just wanted to jump on one thing and the end of that, and then we'll be done for the broadcast. But as we're filling out the Patreon, Facebook, as we're filling out our offerings, and thank you everyone on Patreon for jumping on board. And I know a lot of you reached out to me and told me about the value that you're finding. So I'm so grateful to be able to support you with that. We're still going to be doing stuff through our YouTube page and on Facebook. But it feels more aligned to me, like when we started talking about just doing donation-based broadcasts. I can't tell you how much value you're going to get out of something ahead of it, and I can't tell you what your financial situation is right now. I don't know that. I have no way to know that. I hope it supports you. It's what I'm inspired to offer, and I always intend that people are supported and helped by what it is that I offer. So, it's nice to be donation based because you can determine what it is that you feel comfortable giving. And we appreciate those of you who jumped on at the rates that we put out there. And we'll continue to appreciate all the support that we get with wherever you are and whatever you can offer, because that feels more aligned to the situation, more aligned to who we are, what we want to offer. There might still be some private content for paying later on as we figure things out and as we're able to do more events here in person. But right now, that's going to be the plan for sometime this month. We're going to move.
Well, I think we're going to start Monday night with our Ascension broadcast.
We're going to start Monday night.
We'll be, that's the inspiration that came through.
Okay, sounds good.
So we'll be on Facebook Live and YouTube for anybody to access that and enjoy the bowls and Paige's meditation. And then we sometimes share like this afterward. And again, if you have questions or anything you want to share at that point, we'll be open to it. And then we're going to talk about the other part. There's a couple other pieces to our subscription platform for those that don't know. The way we set it up is the one package was the weekly Ascension broadcast. The next tier was that plus the new and full moon ceremonies. And then the final tier was weekly broadcasts, moon ceremonies, and a private session, private energy work, and that can be done in person or remotely. So basically, for sure, we're going to open up the Ascension broadcast to anybody that has internet signal and a device, and kind of just go from there. And then with the other aspects, the moon ceremony, more than likely we'll transition that too, but we may keep that subscription based for May. And then kind of move into it for June at some point, maybe the following moon cycle, because we're doing this moon theme with a chakra. So we'll be finishing up the root chakra here in 13, 14 days, and moving into the sacral. So I found that to be very powerful, using a whole lunar cycle. This was an inspiration that Paige and I came up with, kind of talking about it. She came into this project at the Grove with these moon ceremonies. And then, of course, we had to adapt with the physical distancing and going virtual. And so I'm kind of, her sidekick for that, because that's really something that she took on. And I just kind of play a supporting role in the moon ceremonies. But it's been really powerful to a lot of root chakra stuff. has come up and been clearing, thank God, for me in the last couple of weeks since new moon in Taurus on the 22nd of April. Then of course that amazing supermoon Scorpio last night. So a lot going on astrologically. I'm not anywhere near an expert on it, but I know a lot more about it now than I ever did. Part of that is, Paige's influence, but there's other things, resources that I've tuned into to be aware. When's a Mercury retrograde, and okay, Venus is doing something next week, I think on the 15th or something.
Yes, she goes retrograde on the 15th till the 25th of June.
So there's these back to this interaction, these influences. It's not good or bad. It's just going to be a theme, right? And depending on your values or where you're at with that theme in your life, it might challenge you. It might challenge you a lot, or it might be blissful, or it might be like, I didn't even notice it. So it's just things to be aware of, that there's these influences that they're going to stimulate us, and how are we going to respond, right? And we can either respond with love or fear. We're back to that again. So it's a practice. We've been really wired and programmed to respond with fear, to have fear motivate our choices and what looks like love. But how many people go into work and not wanting to be there? I still deal with that. Some days I feel dialed in and I'm like, this is great. Feel so great about doing this. Other days I'm like, I don't want to be doing this, but I need the money. I got to eat, right? Survival, fear, right? Very common. Again, nothing wrong with it, but to allow ourselves to let that clear away, and then to say, what does an inspiration feel like? And to feel worthy of that. If it means going back to school and learning a new skill, or, wow, that thing I wanted to do 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, there's another opportunity. Wow, am I going to go for it or not? So by all means, I support you in going for your inspirations, your dreams.
Please.
And when you feel it in your heart, I think that's an important part. So much goes on up here in the brain, and the heart's actually informing the brain. Science is starting to prove it. And we kind of got it backwards. We think the brain's running the heart, but the heart's actually running the brain. And when the two are in coherence, magic can happen in life. And you're navigating a different path, rather than having that kind of that ego going, I don't know about that. And the heart's like, dude, this is love, and it's right here for you, and it feels amazing. Are you going to allow it? But, right? So we're dealing with that. And it's like, okay, that voice isn't going away. Thank you for chiming in. And just love it. Ho'oponopono is amazing practice for this. Helps break that loop when you're really in something. I love you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Thank you. Whatever's going on for you, maybe just one of those 4 you could really work with. Like, I forgive myself. Wow, I really need to forgive myself for that. For doing that to myself, or believing that way, that limiting way. I forgive myself. I'm sorry for the impact on creation that's had. Thank you for this awareness. And I love you. And back to that, you're telling that part of you, that wounded, scared part of you, I love you, right? You're safe. So here we are, Divine Feminine. And thanks again to Courtney, who painted this for us. Amazing artistic rendition. And we will see some or all of you on Monday at 7 p.m. for our Ascension broadcast.
Bye, everybody. Thank you again.